Dead by Daylight is a horror game, which means that it celebrates Halloween. What a shock. Joking aside, today I want to talk about the event, the small changes it got compared to last year, and afterwards I just want to have a small rant about the current state of things. Nothing too negative, but for now, let's get started. Haunted by Daylight is once again back with some new changes. Just like the last few game modes, it's its own thing, meaning you can get experimental with it. But there's not really much change from last time. There's still the same souls you collect around the map, there's pumpkins with tricks and treats. But one thing I do like is how much easier it is to obtain souls to do relatively basic event stuff in the game, instead of the scraps you'd barely get last year and the year before. You don't feel like you can just be tunneled now. And unlike last year, the ability you get actually feels kinda useful. And speaking of abilities, unlike last year, you actually use your killer ability in the Void. But now, I'm gonna split the talk between the two roles, starting with Survivor. Survivor is pretty simple. You obtain souls from generators, stunning killers, blinding killers, and interacting with random souls and pumpkins around the map. Once you've got your fill, you can enter the Void, climb to the top of the pillar, and collect your prize. What is this prize? Essentially a smoke grenade. You break the crystal and a plume of smoke covers your screen and the killers that is likely chasing you. The neat part about it is it removes your scratch marks, and Behavior added a basic but nice accessibility thing, akin to Clown's Bottles, where it shows a dot in the middle of your screen. Another neat thing is that you can leave your souls in the altar and collect them later to keep the smoke screens coming. Other than that, it's just good old Survivor gameplay. I can actually see them making this a perk eventually, but it's pretty cool. The killer side is also pretty simple. You obtain souls from kicking generators, downing survivors, hooking survivors, and interacting with the random souls and pumpkins across the map. Once you've got your fill, you can enter the Void, climb to the top of the pillar, and collect your prize. What is this prize? Whoa, Wraith be upon ye. These little buggers, two you get exactly. The trajectory is limited, being a straight line. If it misses, survivors near you scream, so a bit like Scene Partner. But if they get hit, they lose a damage state, which is why I can say that it really wasn't quality controlled. It's insanely easy to two-tap in almost all circumstances. One of these being a save on hook. Just hide in the Void, once the save comes, you just pop out, down them instantly. Or just get up close with an M1 killer. There's really no response to it, which makes the ability kind of boring compared to the smoke screen. But hey, if you miss, they scream, I guess. Other than that, it's just good old killer. The biggest part that makes it different from last year's is the Void changes. More verticality to make the ability feel grander to obtain. You're climbing this top of pillar to be granted otherworldly powers. Killers can now use their power in the Void, so it makes the game feel more interactive. You can of course use the new abilities there as well. There are pallets instead of just windows, so survivors have more survivability. And honestly, balanced landers are eating good with this one. But overall, this is a very basic event. Not as insanely wacky as the anniversary, but not as basic as Lights Out. I do kinda wish there was more lore we could get about the Void, since in Dead by Daylight lore, the Void is where killers and survivors go once the entity can no longer have its fill with their hope and their bloodlust. But that's just my personal opinion. Originally, I was only going to talk about the current event and wrap it up, but I really want to rant about the current state of Dead by Daylight and how it's really killing the fun. Ever since the mid-chapter patch for Castlevania, this game's been running awfully on PC. I've moved to console for the time being because of it. The menus stutter when the game launches and stabilizes sometime later. Graphics messing up desync and desync just being rather wonky right now. Blight literally gets locked out of his ability when he uses it with the Halloween event serum. So that's cool, I guess. Didn't happen the last two times. And then they did something insanely silly and added breakable walls all over the Coal Tower main building and the Asylum. Like, I get adding more to the Asylum to block the exit or two, but why the entire upper area of Coal Tower? You just made a permanent dead zone. No killer's gonna break that. You basically just die to an insta-down killer like Bubba, and the ones that you don't, you just lose a health state. You can't escape without giving them a free hit. It's just kind of dumb. And then you absolutely gutted most of Skull Merchant's stuff, which they gave a little more in the PTB to make up for it, but the concept of gutting a killer completely to alleviate players' grievances with the killer until you make a more permanent change will just incentivize players to play the set killer to the best way possible, which with Skull Merchant is incredibly boring. Fundamentally, how she's built is the problem. No matter how many changes you give her, she's going to play the same, just weaker, stronger, less obnoxious, or even more obnoxious. I really can't say what I would do to or anything, because in the honest truth, she's been out for a year and she's already gotten 5 changes. 2 of them are quality of life for sure, but people still don't want to face her. The stigma around her is horrible. Gutting her and making her bearable, but also making her less fun than Trapper, is just going to destroy any goodwill the player base has, especially the sick individuals who main her. No offense. I don't know, man. I really think Behavior needs to slow down the content train and focus on the game's health, because at the current pace, ever since Dead by Daylight moved to Unreal Engine 5, the game is just being held together with tape and bits of string. Okay, ran over. Let's wrap this up. 2v8 is coming back in November, and I'll likely make a video on it, but I do genuinely hope that Behavior focuses on the game's performance and health soon, because Christmas is coming up, and will bring new players, and the game won't retain new players if the game can't run at a stable frame rate. But for now, thank you for watching this video. And for the people who've stayed this long, I'm currently working on a casting of Frank Stone video. I'm hoping to get it out by Halloween, but I'm really trying to skim through as much lore and content as I really can to see if the game's worth the price. But with that said, once again, thank you, and have a wonderful day.